Welcome. So today we're going to be talking about how Satan's preachers trick people. And so we're just going to go through a few. You're going to hear some of these. You're going to get them really quickly. But the first one is they start name dropping. Whenever you hear somebody start name dropping, they're trying to sit there and create this authority with their scriptures. They're trying to say that it's true. They're trying to focus you away of, oh, he's not just saying it, somebody else is saying it. And you should get that in 5 seconds. If you want to name drop folks, then go to the scriptures. Christ talked about the prophets before him. Of course, he spoke through them, but he talked about them. He pointed you back to them to create the authority you need to discuss the truths of the God that we're following. You can go back to those people, but when you start moving away to people who book writers, you have to get away from that. It's a trick. They should be able to sit with their authority, what they're teaching on the scriptures themselves. You don't need anybody else. And then you should ask yourself, you don't even know who the people they're talking about are in the first place. They just threw it in there because they're trying to create some sort of authority to what they're teaching. It's a trick. They don't need to do that. You should be sticking on the scriptures. You're not bringing in other people. Number two, they start talking about, if it's in English, for example, how stupid the English language is, how simple it is, and they want to start talking in the Greek text, the Koine Greek. This is what the original language said. And, they make the joke, we say we love hot dogs, or we say we love our wife. Well, that's the same word, but in here it's 8 different things. Folks, none of you speak Greek or Hebrew, and neither do they. The reason it was translated in English, Spanish, German, Swahili, Farsi, every language is because so those people could hear it. So the second they're going out of the language that they're talking in, you should already know there's something wrong, that there's some sort of trick there to create some sort of illusion that there's more to it than this. And it really doesn't do justice here. Yes, it does. It does it just fine. I speak English. If someone speaks Spanish, it does it just fine. It's talking about the truths of Jesus Christ. You don't need to go to other languages when you're not a linguist. You don't have a clue. And it just sounds like it, man, is that really what it says? Like, that's impressive. It's a trick. They're trying to do something to create this authority when you don't need to, because it's in that language. I don't need to hear the Greek and Hebrew. Now, if somebody speaks Hebrew and they want to speak in their own language or tell me something, well, that's awesome. But the second they start saying, but your language is stupid and it doesn't even do justice, you got to get away from that. That's not going to help you any. Another thing is they start talking about they start bringing in philosophy, Stoicism, humanities, and stuff like that. Some sort of mythology to try to kind of move it into the gospel. That should be a red flag. That's a trick. They're trying to do something to create some sort of weird thing in their life, that they have these other beliefs and they put them in there as just as important as Christianity. You're never going to have me talking about any of that stuff. I'm going to talk to you about Jesus Christ. I'm not talking about Stoicism. I'm not talking about mythology. I'm not talking about personal empowerment. If you want to be empowered, look at the scriptures and practice those things. When people start talking about, why aren't you getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning? Why aren't you doing this? And why aren't you doing this? And stoic behaviors. And they start quoting these things. I wouldn't worry about any of that, folks. You should be asking yourself, why is anybody telling me at all what they're doing? Why aren't they pointing me to Christ? That's what I'm going to do here. That's what you should be doing. You want to talk about Christ. If you have your own personal beliefs, keep them to yourself. You don't sit there and bring that in to your beliefs of Christ as if you're just melding them together. There's something wrong with you, and it means there's a deception in you, and that you're trying to take away from the things of Christ, not add to them. So when people start talking about any of those kind of philosophies, Stoicism, humanism, any kind of philosophy or idea, Confucius said this, get away from it. It's a trick. They're trying to bring that stuff into the Lord and to bring it together. And we're not going to be unevenly yoked. And the last one is, I hate this one probably the most, is the pastor will stand up there, him or her, and they'll start saying, look, I'm coming to you with a heavy heart. I got a heavy heart, folks. I've been thinking about this all week. Now, I know this sounds controversial, but I think it needs to be said. Now, when you hear them start to set this up in a captive audience, you know they're trying to trick you right there, because they're going to dump on you something. They're going to say something that's ugly, because what's the pastor do all week long, him or her? They've got nothing to do. They just sit there all week long. So they can see current events, or they can see problems in their church, or they can have their own problems. But there's their own thing, and they just want to come and dump on you because now here's my time. It's Sunday morning, it's Wednesday night, and now I get to tell them I get to do all this, because they get a charge out of it. They get a charge out of being controversial, saying something ugly, bothering people, and then later on having to come and apologize and said, oh, I shouldn't have said it, it didn't sound right. Folks, when everybody starts setting it up, I'm going to tell you something you might not want to hear, I'm going to say something that's controversial. They start setting up all this stuff. It's a trick. You need to get away from it. You need to have your guard up. You're not going to be deceived. And then remember, they told you what they're going to tell you. They just said what they're going to do. So then they're going to go and do it. And then you have to make a decision. Man, I got to get out of this place. This isn't the Lord. And you got to make a decision for yourself. You're not just a captive audience. You can, your mind, you can think, you can see, you can hear. So make a good decision on what you're doing. You're responsible. There's all kinds of wolves out there trying to trick you. And so when you're in the church, there's plenty of pastors that are just as wolves and deceptive false prophets as we have anywhere else, you'd say. So again, be on your guard, beware. These are just a few things that some of these people will try to do for the manipulations to dump on you, whatever reason. Anyway, again, thanks for watching. This was Mike Stinnett in the Office for Truth.